Welcome to Nkosi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within. Welcome to Nkosi Talk Show. Over to you, D. Dr. D, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on the globe. I want to say good morning to you. I am Dr. Drdeewilliams, and I am super excited to be here. I am a multi-potential specialist, and I am super excited to share on this beautiful day some of the amazing things that we're going to be talking about today as it relates to, leading and some of the things that we have to, as human beings, we have to encounter, we have to go through, we have to actually face. And so today on the Nkosi Talk Show, what we're going to specifically be talking about today, as those of us who are positioning ourselves to lead and making sure that our voices are heard, we're going to be talking about something that's coming up soon. So many people are already starting to celebrate, what that looks like this weekend. But all over the world, we are celebrating mothers this weekend. So mothers, grandmothers, godmothers, aunties who are serving as mothers, and all those surrogate mothers, all those who are served in the mother figure role. However, there is something that is very near and dear to me that I want to share with our audience on today as it relates to understanding that this day or this weekend is a very beautiful weekend, and it's a celebratory weekend for many people around the world. But for others, it may not be. It may be a reminder of who's missing. And if you're like me, 12 years ago, my mother passed away, and it has left a deep wound in my heart because there is nobody like mom. You only get one mother. And so this weekend, if you are like me and you have experienced the loss of a mom or the loss of a mother figure, and you are challenged with celebrating Mother's Day, or you have these bittersweet experiences where you remember, you have memories of your loved one, but they're no longer physically here to celebrate you. We're going to talk about how important it is that we grieve unapologetically and how we're still able to celebrate the memory, but it doesn't take away the hurt that we experience by not having our mothers here physically with us on the earth. So if you are listening, I am here today to give you permission to use your voice, even to express levels of grief as it relates to not having your mother physically with you today. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to be just kind of asking questions and basically helping to generate the conversation around grief, losing moms, what moms are like, having memories of mom, and all the different experiences that we're all going through. To me today, and this entire weekend, although my mother is not physically here, it's still about celebrating the legacy because I am still here. So I'm a reflection of my mom. And even doing this show today, I'm doing it in memory of my mom. And I know she's with me here today, even on this show. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm super excited.
Thank you so much, Dee. I'm excited as well. So the topic is very exciting. Over to you, Carolanne. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, yes, and it's good afternoon from London here. So welcome to wherever you are in the world and whatever time of day it is for you. As the writing facilitator, what I do is I support soul-driven entrepreneurs in becoming more productive with their writing by connecting them with their deeper innate ability to write. But more importantly, they experience free-flowing writing. They experience an unlocking of the writer within, an unmuting of their story, and getting their book written, getting their story written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. And all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within. So I'm Carolanne, the writing facilitator, helping unlock the writer within. And looking forward to this this conversation today, because yes, it is about being able to celebrate your mum, even if she's still not with you, and not putting down any feelings of loss or upset that might be there, but just allowing it all to be present. So I'm curious to see where this conversation is going to go. Thank you.
We can't hear you.
Can't. Yeah.
Sorry.
You need to be unmuted. Yes.
Sorry. So our topic today is how having the permission to grieve unapologetically is important in your life. So grieving, it could be the loss of, like Dee was saying, Dr. Dee was saying, she lost her mom, and it could be a death, losing someone, your loved ones, or it could be a relationship that is broken, separation basically, because in that relationship there's a promise that is being made when you meet somebody, and when that relationship is broken, it can feel like all those promises have been taken away from you, and everything, the places you visited, has been stripped away. And it could be health. The doctors tell you that you have a long-term illness. It could be anything. Anything that we think is small, but to somebody else it will be is a big thing. There is sometimes, or a disappointment or a rejection is a grief. You go to grieve. So I'm going to ask Dee, because you lost your mom. I don't know the feeling that, I know some people when you talk to them, they say, oh, I know the feeling, but you don't. So I don't know the feeling that you went through when you lost your mom. I lost my father. So I need to find out from you, if you can explain to our audience, why did you choose this topic, and what do you want the audience to gain from your experience as well? Did you lose anyone, Carolanne?
Yeah, both my parents.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
over to you, Dr. Dee, please.
Sure. So, of course, in the beginning, I shared about, who I am, and, as it relates to my business, Dr. D Unlimited, and being a multi-potential specialist, where I work with leaders as a transformational coach for cultivating leaders in education, business, and community organizations. And my actual business name comes from my mother. And so today was the reason why I chose this topic is because, like I shared earlier, even though there may be people who are physically no longer with you, there are ways in which we can bring honor to their name and honor to their character, even though they're not physically here. Again, like I shared, 12 years ago, I lost my mom, and it wasn't anything that we were at all prepared for. At that time in my life, I was working at a university. As a matter of fact, it was my alma mater, where I actually graduated with my bachelor's degree, and I went back to work at the university level as a program director and coordinator for the U.S. Department of Education for an organization that was housed on that campus. And so my mom worked at that campus as well, and she went in for a simple procedure from having some pain from a pretty much like a cyst that grew on her skin, and it was supposed to be a very simple procedure. After being dismissed from the hospital, that same day she died 5 hours later. And so it was really a shock to me, and to my family. Here's the caveat: it was almost like, I spent so much time being angry about it because the history of my mother and I, we were never really close because my mother gave me up at 9 months old to my grandmother on my father's side. So my paternal grandmother raised me, and my grandfather raised me. So we were just starting over the last maybe 3 or 4 years of that time span to really gain a relationship and grow and really learn more about each other. And actually, I was learning more about myself, because of course, when your mother births you, or when you are brought into a family, you have characteristics and you have behaviors that connect to the DNA and of that family. But if you don't spend a lot of time with that person, there are going to be things in you that you just don't realize where they come from. And so as an adult at that point in time, I had a lot of questions about certain thought processes, behaviors, and just ways in which, I had questions about where they came from. So my mom and I were getting really, really close. And then, within that time span, I felt like she was taken away from me. And I spent a lot of time really being angry. I have strong faith, but at that time I was really confused. I was confused, with why, God would allow her to get through a lot of the things that she went through. Because here's the thing. I'm from the United States, and I'm here in the southern parts of the United States. And I was born in the 70s, but of course raised in the 80s and the 90s. And if you know anything about the United States during that time, there was what was called war on drugs. And it was when, it seems like our country was enamored with this epidemic of drugs. And so my mother actually was a drug addict. And so that's why she gave me up at nine months old. And so I spent most of my time really trying to figure out who I was, why she gave me up. So I already had this breakdown in relationship for most of my life. And then, of course, when she got off drugs, and, this was in my teens going into late teens going into college. And so I'm seeing her go through this transition and trying to build this relationship. But as I'm an adult now, in probably about my fourth or fifth year of marriage at the time, I married young. So I'm really starting to really understand certain things. And then she's taken away from me. So we really technically only had about 3 or 4 solid years together. And that was my matriculation through college, because she worked at the college where I ended up going back and working as well. And so I was really confused because I couldn't believe that she was gone most of my life. And then the time that we were together, she was then instantly taken without warning. So I did have a bit of a speed bump in my faith, where I felt like I was stagnant. I was stopping. I was questioning God about why would he take me through all of this? And I'd already gone through enough in my childhood. And then we're back here again, in my adulthood, where I feel like I need mom most. You have the most questions when you become an adult, because you're discovering things and you're learning things. But now I don't have that. And so oftentimes Mother's Day, her birthday, and many holidays are, have been bittersweet for me, because there's that missing piece, and sort of a trigger, because I spent most of my childhood having that missing piece. So I feel like most of my life I didn't have my mother. And so I started doing some soul searching and some digging while I was really searching for my business name, while I was helping clients to unlock their unlimited potential. I really had to really do the self work. And that work dealt with really digging deep inside about those things that could perhaps be a roadblock in me being successful in business, in marriage and relationships and in life. And it all really went down to, let's deal with the motherhood void. Let's deal with that experience, and let's stop pressing down the guilt, or the grief, I should say. Let's stop pressing it in, and really let's deal with it. And when I began to deal with it is when I really began to get the most revelatory experiences in my life. And of course, I named my business after my mom. because even during times where I would see her throughout life, and in most times there were sad occasions because I was not happy to see her in the state that she was in most of my life. And one day she told me, she said, it doesn't matter what I do with my life. It doesn't matter what your dad does. It doesn't matter what anyone does with your life. Do not let anyone limit you from being all that you can be. And that stuck with me as I went through those memories in my heart. And I decided to name my business Dr. D Unlimited, because my mother taught me that it doesn't matter what you experience or what those around you who you love experience. You have to decide what you want and go after it. And so even though it was a tumultuous relationship, with several things going on, we did have a moment in time where we were mother-daughter, and I gained so much from her. And I've been able to be successful in life because I really allow myself to grieve. I'll allow myself to grow from the grief. And, here I am today. I'm helping others who have lost their mother or a parent, to get through that in business. When we deal with my mentorship program, I help them to really dig deep in their heart and see what's blocking them. Because for me, it was suppressing the grief in order to move forward in life. And so, honestly, this is a very exciting time. Yes, I still miss my mom, but I'm able to celebrate Mother's Day knowing that I have done many of the things that I desire and pursue to do. And again, I have her name with me in my business. And so just want to empower those that are watching that, if you're experiencing the loss of the mother, dig deep down inside and bring out those memories, those good times. They may not have been all good times. You may have had a tumultuous relationship with your parents, but find those good times. And that's what you're able to pull out. And guess what? They give you strength, and they give you what you need to really birth those things that are in your mind and your heart to give to the world. And it really gives you permission to speak about it. So that's kind of what I would share with those who are listening, and why I chose this topic.
Thank you so much, Dr. D. Before I comment it, I'm gonna go to Carolanne. I know you lost both your parents as well. So anything you would like to add to what Dr. D has said, and any personal your feelings that you would like to share for yourself, please.
I thank you for sharing that, Dee, because I really love where you said, your mum said, decide what you want and go for it. What a blessing that was for you. That treasured moment, just even that one piece of advice has been huge, So in that respect, even though there wasn't much time spent, it was quality time is what I'm hearing that you had. And for me, I think when I started on my journey of stepping out of teaching and training in other complementary fields and really getting to know myself and working on myself, I unlocked a lot of grief around my grandparents and that had died when I was younger, and so sort of had a different what's the word? A different relationship with death and my actual parents when they actually did go, because I actually did quite a bit of work with them. They allowed me to practice my processes on them, bless them in the beginning, and then they were quite happy for me to just work, with them. And I'd say, do you like me to do some work with you, or either Touch for Health or a brain gym process, just to support them? They would always go, yeah, yes, please. And my dad would always say, oh, I don't know what it is you do, but I just know it works. And that's what he would tell his friends as well. But when my dad went, that was 12 years ago, I think now. I sort of lose track of time. But at the time, we were told he'd got cancer of the liver, and literally he didn't have much time to live. And 6 weeks later, he'd gone. But I spent some amazing moments with him, just sitting and meditating and just connecting with his soul. And I got that sense of giving him permission to go through to the light, you know, and different stages of it, and to sort of be able to stop and slow down and then move on. Very often, you know, after I sort of meditated with him and sort of would come to again, he'd wake up and he said, "That was you. You sent me to sleep, didn't you?" You know? But he was more present, and we'd have an amazing conversation. So when he did actually go, yeah, and I can still feel it here. It was sad, but I felt a sense of peace because I had that connection with him. He's still here with me. I haven't lost him because I had that soul connection with him in a way that I'd never had as I was growing up, you know. And even with my mum, who died 4 years ago, that was quite sudden, and I wasn't able to be with her because I was the other side of London and she was in another town, a good sort of hour and a half, 2 hours ride out of London. And my sister rang me to say Mum wasn't well. She then had to be taken into hospital. So we'd got a friend of Mum's to be with her, and my sister-in-law ended up being able to be in the hospital with her. But what was so magical, and which stays with me and keeps me going most of the time, all the time really, is I was actually working with somebody. I was doing some touch for health with a lady, and we just started, and I was doing some what we call corrections, and she'd gone into a really sort of deep sleep. But in that moment, I literally knew, because it was like I spoke with my mum, and I went, "It's okay, Mum. It's okay, I got it." And I knew she'd gone. And then my phone I could see was buzzing as well, but I stayed with the lady until she came to. And I said, "Oh, I just need to have a look." And my sister had messaged to say, "Oh, Mum's gone." And I just messaged, said, "Yes, I know." And when I was sharing that with this lady, she said, "Oh, do you need to go?" And I said, "No, we need to do this work. This is what needs to be done right now. I can't help my mum. She's died. So there's no point me rushing all the way, you know, across London, and because that's not going to help. I need to be here right now." And literally it shifted something for her as well. The importance of her doing this work and her getting well again, you know. But that's when I find myself sort of in this sort of physical body, this sense of, oh, you know, I miss my mum. And what I miss for both of them is the physicality, the physical, having them sitting and talking to them in this physical realm and having that hug. And it's taken me a while to sort of get used to the communication in a different way. And then being reminded that you were with your mum in that moment, soul to soul, you know, which is, I think, a far deeper connection. And so when this physical goes on, but you weren't with her, you know, in the physical, I said, but I was there with her, soul to soul, in a different way. And so that really helped me with that, and still helps me, you know. But it's there's still that sort of questioning of, well, am I getting this right? No, I still want that. There's still a something that's missing, in a sense of trusting that the communication is there and that I am connected at a soul level and that they are communicating to me, and trusting that there's a conversation that can be had in a different way. Yeah, it's a completely different experience, and I was able to just be present at both my dad's funeral and my mum's funeral, and go through that process. And but with my mum, after my mum died, I really believe we were really lucky that my brother, my sister and I, because my sister and I, we were going to keep the house, we literally had a whole year where we would meet up sort of on a monthly sort of basis to clear and sort out the house. And where we went through a lot of shifting of grief and bringing up memories and happy memories and bringing out, you know, objects from the attic and from the room. And that was a great healing process. And we were all really grateful for being able to have that time, because very often you don't get that time to go through a loved one's belongings and really go through that process of remembering them. And I would spend time in the house and actually get in touch with some really deep emotional things and be in tears and feel that heartbreak, and then able to just then let it go and feel a deeper peace happen. So yeah, I was really lucky in that respect. And yeah, I haven't lost my mum or my dad. They're not with me in this physical realm. They are still very much with me. And I'm really welcoming this conversation, because it's really bringing back that memory, because we, you know, yeah, as physical beings, we forget. It's so easy to drop into that. Oh, but they're not here. I want them, you know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carolanne and Dr. D, for sharing that experience. Actually, I wanted to cry when you guys are sharing that experience, because my story with the D is similar, but my parents, I stayed with my parents. My parents divorced when I was 8 months. So I lost my dad, and they remarried, both of them, and I was very, very close to my step parents. And I lost my stepdad, and I lost my stepmom and my dad and my grandmother who raised me as well. Because when they divorced, my mom wanted to go back to uni. My dad was the oldest, so he was busy at uni studying, and my mom getting pregnant very young. So they came to an agreement. She had 3 kids, and my mom was like, this is not what I signed up for, being a housewife. So it wasn't the life that she wanted. My dad wanted that life, so it didn't work out. So my mama had to go to uni. My grandmother had to look after us. And me, I was the youngest. I don't remember their divorce anyway. But it's the death of my father and my stepdad and my stepmom. I wasn't there. And you know, Carolanne, you say you were there for their funeral. For me, I wasn't there. And I remember with my stepdad, when he died, he was like, because I was very, very close. My daddies, they were my best friends, basically. They were my coaches. Sometimes, you know, like I didn't have a coach then, but I knew that I had these 2 people that were coaching me to become who I wanted to be. They'll never lie to me. They'll speak the truth. It was up to me how I responded to that situation. They'll tell me in life. My stepdad came to a wealthy family. He was wealthy. My dad was a teacher. So there was this honesty that this is what life is about. So you wanna go get married. My stepdad will say, and my dad, you wanna find a man wants a woman with a plan. So if you're just gonna say, hey, I need a rich man, that rich man, eventually they're gonna want to know your plan. So that is scared me. Who used to scare me, and I'll be like, I need to have a plan. I need to have a plan. So when I lost my parents, it felt like everything has been stripped away from me. Though I had my mom, I felt like everything was taken away from me. And I asked God, why would you do this to me? But it took me a long time to grieve. And that process, no one has ever said to me, you need to grieve like this. These are the steps to grieve. We can listen, we have to speak really. We can listen to people saying these are the steps to grieve, these are these. But the grieving is a different story. It's a choice how you want to grieve, whether you want to stay there or you want to keep crying. Because some days you're good, everything is great, but some days things are bad. So you just have to respond on those days. So for me, that was the process. Sometimes I have bad days because sometimes I'll be faced with a situation where I call my father, where I call my stepdad, where I speak to I'm a child basically who spend my whole life interviewing my parents. If I want to know something, I don't keep it inside. I just ask questions. That's who I am. My grandmother used to say, you should go and get a job as a lawyer. I'll be like, I don't want to be a lawyer. I need to know. It's because sometimes when parents are gone, you are left with this dark cloud inside of you that you have questions. So I ask questions. I say, my dad, why did you divorce her? And my dad will be honest with me. We were two different people and wanted two different things. So it doesn't mean we didn't love you. So we loved you. So those are the questions that I'll get. But when that is no longer there anymore, it can feel that it's been stolen from you. It can feel that the memories have been stripped away from you. It can feel that you can ask God and say, okay, God, you say you love me, but why would you take this? But you know what I've learned? Having my mom in my life, growing up, my mama used to visit her. She was busy working. And then I moved in with my mom when I was 15. But then looking back now, God had a plan for me that I didn't know. He knew that I'm going to need my mom later. He knew that my father my stepdad and my stepmother, they're going to leave, and my dad. So he made sure that I spend so much time with my dad, because at this moment now, these three people, they are not here. My mom, she's everything. She's my stepmom. She's my stepdad. She's my dad. She does everything they did when they were alive. And sometimes if you are going through that grief and you are asking questions, why would you, God, why would you do this? I don't know, or universe, whatever your beliefs might be, there's always a reason behind it. It's just sometimes we choose not to face it. So for me, the reason was these people taught me everything that I do. Some people might think, oh, Nomsa, what you are doing. Yes, what I'm doing with work, I've learned from psychology. I've learned from the coaches, other coaches. But there's one thing that I've learned from my parents: unconditional love. Regardless whatever is going on in life, if the bills are not paid, if I can't afford to pay bills, I have to give myself unconditional love. I have to give my loved ones, everyone. That's why at Ngosi Talk Show, I go crazy with the team and say, I want my speakers to receive a first-class service, because that is who I am. Without you guys, there is no Ngosi Talk Show. And that's what my parents taught me, that I need to unconditional love. Then the rest, the world, things for the world, then it will come after. But I need to give in order for me to get to where I need to be. Like if I want Ngosi Talk Show to be where it needs to be, I need to give you guys some love. But at the same time, I got to speak my truth. Carolanne knows you've been with us for a very, very long time. I have to speak my truth, and you guys have to speak your truth as well. And that is a true, authentic relationship. When you are not happy, you are able to say, Nomsa, this. Or when you are not able to turn up and you are able to say, Nomsa, I don't feel too good and I'm off to Ngosi Talk Show today. That means that I'm saying, okay, you get well soon. I'll see you when you get back, and being happy. And that's what the life that I've learned through the grieving, through the experience with my parents. So I don't know, do you want to share anything?
I was gonna say I really love that, how the lessons you drew from all of those that are no longer physically here with you, and how your mom is continuing to edify what they shared and with you when they were here. And I think that's so important, as I think about what my mom provided for me and what I did gain in the short period of time that we were together, and that is strength and stamina, being able to stand firm on what I believe and really just go after it. Like that's like the biggest thing. Sometimes we see people who may not be ideal as far as their behavior and choices. But one of the things that I valued about my mother, that she did not vacillate. Like once she made a decision about how she was going to do whatever, that was it. There was no convincing otherwise. And so she had a very strong mind in that sense, to where you were not going to tell her what to do. And so that is something that I definitely have, where I am very decisive. I'm very decisive about what I want, what I like. Like you said, you have to be good to yourself. And that's one of the things that I learned from the opposite end of her lifestyle, is that she wasn't good to herself. And so that was something that I had to make sure that even in all the success, and even in all, all of the accolades and everything that I've achieved, that I'm good to myself. Because, you know, and I tell people this all the time. I tell my clients this all the time. When I talk about my mother, yes, she chose, unfortunately, uh, crack cocaine to be her drug of choice. But your drug of choice may be overworking. It could be, lascivious behavior. It could be alcoholism. It could be self-doubt. It could be so many different things, because all of those things act as drugs. They act as things that control our ability to make sound decisions for our lives. And so I think that is important, to whatever lessons you can gain from your parents, is to always be good to yourself, always choose love. And you have to learn how to appropriately love yourself in order to really attract the type of love in your life. And I'm not just talking about romantic love, but I'm talking about the type of love that honors, because honor is an aspect of love. And if you are in business relationships, if you are in partnerships, if you are in friendships, and there is a lack of honor, then there is a lack of love somewhere in that parameter. And you have to decide that you honor and love yourself more to make the right choice. And so that's one of the lessons. Again, there's so many things that, during life I saw as negatives, but the more I had that time spent with my mom when she was here, I saw so many positives, and I was able to see the strength that I had, because this is part of my DNA. And I was able to see that. And I've gone through some challenging times in my life, gone through divorce, relational issues, having to navigate life as a new business owner, friendships, and just different developments. And I've had to realize I have that same strength that my mother had, to decide to walk away from this type of lifestyle and to change directions. And so like I said, my mother was very decisive. I am very decisive. And that is something that I will honor her life as it relates to the characteristics that I drew from her. My grandmother who raised me, of course, is no longer with us. She actually passed before my mother. She passed in 2005. My mother passed in 2009. So in a span of like 4 years, I lost two mother figures. And I was divorcing at the same time while all of this was happening. So you can imagine the trauma of experiences that I felt, the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I felt like I was losing from several different ends. And there is a sense of loss. I know that, when we look at the transcendental perspective of seeing our family members, no longer with us, but they're, still with us. That's an idea that, I definitely subscribe to, but I definitely value the feeling of loss. there is a loss. There's a missing piece there where they are physically no longer there to pick up the phone. Like when I was going through my divorce and when I was going through different things, I wanted to pick up the phone, but I could not. You know, when I got my doctorate degree, I wanted to celebrate and wanted to call mom and tell her how I really feel. Couldn't. And there was a sense of loss, and it's okay to feel loss. It's okay. And what I mean by that, I mean loss in both senses, in both definitions of the word. Loss in a sense of that person not being there, but also loss in a sense of feeling like you lost your guidance or you lost your way, because that person, mom, is like that navigator. She helps you navigate those specific areas in life. So there's a sense of loss in a duality there. So it's like, yes, we have a heavenly father who cares, or whatever, spiritual perspective you subscribe to. There is, you may pray to that being, that entity. But I always like to give permission for people to feel that there is an actual loss there. And so that's kind of what I would share, is that own those lessons, own those attributes and experiences that you remember, but also give your permission to self to feel that loss, that grief that's there. Because sometimes, and I've had to share this and a small caveat here, I have had to share this not only in business but also in ministry. What you all didn't know, and I didn't share, I just forgot that I didn't share it, is that I actually eulogized my mother. I'm a licensed ordained minister and ordained prophet, and so I eulogized my mother. I had to, because prior to my ministerial ordination, I literally dreamt that my first message outside of the church that I was in, I was going to be speaking at another church. I was going to be preaching at another church. And in that dream, I had on all black, and it was at the church where I grew up. At that time, I was in another city, in another place, so I was attending another church. And I didn't understand that dream. I had that dream in like 2004, 2005. Well, after I got licensed in 2008, my mother passed in 2009, and that was the first message outside of that church I was in. I actually had to preach my mother's funeral. And I had that strength because of her. I was able to stand and eulogize her. And plus, although in church and I am deeply spiritual, I am so anti-religion and religious mindsets. And the religious mindset is to think that, oh, I'm going to see her again, in heaven, or, don't cry tears for me anymore, those types of things. And although they may work for some people, the reality is it hurts, and you should cry. You should express that grief. Yes, we know them. We know that they're still with us in a transcendental form, but we should still feel lost because they're no longer there, and it's okay. And so I know that one of my missions as one who's called to the mountain of religion is to break up some of that religiosity as it relates to grief, for you to feel like, oh, I'll just pray or give it to God, or they're still with me. Yes, we know that. But we want to give people permission to really feel that place, because it's only when we're able to identify that area is when we're able to really move on, because it places a limit on our emotions when we start to press and suppress these ideas, even from a religious perspective. It becomes then a trap and a cage for us. And we don't want that. And that's one of the things that, I'm really passionate about in my work, not only as a business owner, but as a minister. I'm passionate about people breaking out of these boxes of religion, because, we learn through our religious practices, what we think grief looks like, or how we think we should live after the loss of a loved one. But I'm here to tell you that looks different for everybody. That looks completely different from everybody on the face of this earth. Some people are experiencing this weekend either their first or second Mother's Day without their mom due to the coronavirus, due to the COVID-19 and the global pandemic. And I am saying to you, if you are watching or you're sharing with someone who's watching, you have permission to grieve. You have permission to feel that loss because it was unexpected. No one could have predicted a global pandemic and for it to have effect and still affect people at such a large scale. And you're still trying to grapple with the loss of your mom, your grandma, or someone that you may have lost in the process. And so it's okay to feel that loss and to find what works for you. I love what someone says, being kind to yourself is really the foundation in the journey towards healing in any life situation. And I love that because being kind to yourself is also about giving yourself permission to feel. When we box ourselves in to what we think it looks like, or what someone says, even what the preacher said, or what our religion said we should do. No, no, no. We have to have a relationship with the Creator, and the Creator is concerned about how he made us individually, and so He is okay and is not intimidated by the idea that you feel lost because He is there to feel that. And so I love that. So be kind to yourself by being honest with yourself about where you are and what you're feeling during this time. Because guess what? There's so many of us out there who have experienced loss and grief, and we want to walk with you. And that's what the show is about today, is extending our hand to you in a virtual way to say that we want to walk with you. We know what it feels like to have experienced grief and loss, but we also know what it feels like to have joy in the memories of those who have gone on before us. And so I just wanted to share that. I felt really passionate about that. It just kind of brewed up in my spirit to share that with our listeners.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. D. Before I comment, Carolanne, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I like that where you were saying about that there is loss, and the sort of there's a more of a clarification on the loss, because yes, that you've lost the ability to share what you're doing with them, and that is a big loss, because you know that's what I often feel, is that I can't ring my mum, I can't share with her. You know, I always used to ring her at night, and sometimes it was a 10-minute conversation, sometimes longer, but it was really precious, you know, and I can't do that anymore. And both my parents were always interested in what I did, and so not being able to share with them, that is the loss. That's where the sadness is. And I think what you were saying, Dee, it is about recognizing what is the loss, because that is what creates the sadness, and it is distinguishing it. And it is important to let yourself cry. It is not a prerequisite of grieving. You don't have to cry just because you're grieving. But if you are crying, allow yourself to cry. And to cry for as long as it takes, you know, and maybe it'll stop and it'll start and it'll stop and it'll start. And then eventually it does slow down, and then it might come back again. But I always remember when my grandfather died, my mum's dad. I was about, I can't remember, 8, something like that. And I was upstairs in bed crying, and my mum came in, and she was saying, "Oh, I didn't realize that you would understand what would happen, what had happened." And almost, I felt like I had to stop crying. I felt that she couldn't cope with me crying. And it was only through doing this inner work over these last 20 years that I sort of got in touch with that. And the anger that was inside of me, of course I know what's happening, I'm never going to see my grandfather again, you know, it was there. And how dare you stop me crying? It was so suppressed. I hadn't realized how suppressed that was until I unlocked it and allowed that grief to come out and to start healing, that, you know, my grandfather had gone. And so yes, don't stop somebody crying. Be with them, hold that space, allow them to cry, and allow yourself to cry. If somebody starts to try and stop you, just say, it's okay. I want to cry. I choose to cry. I need to cry, and it's okay. And all I want you to do is just be with me, because very often people don't know how to be with you when you're crying and when you're upset. And really, the best thing you can do is just be with somebody. There is nothing else to do. There is nothing to say. Just hold that space and be with them, and allow them to grieve in their own way, because everybody has their own unique way of grieving. You know, they say there are sort of steps that you go through, but do you actually go through them in that order? Do you have to go through them in that order? There is no have to. There is only grief. And how you go through it is how you go through it. And it's acknowledging that, and it's acknowledging what aspect of grief you are at in any moment in time. Embrace it, be with it, and let it run its course. It may be over quickly, but it may take years. Who knows? You know, it's how you deal with it and how you are with it. And I think the more you can be with it and allow it expression in whatever form it wants to take, I think the quicker the healing process happens, because the less it has a grip on you when it pops up again. Because now it'll pop up, you know, with my parents or with another relative, but it quickly goes. It's there and then it's gone. It's not got me in its grips and holds me for a long time, you know, because I can be with it, because I can acknowledge it. I can allow the tears to flow. I can allow the heartbreak to be felt, and then just go, you know. So it is about being with it, and allowing yourself the process, however it shows up. And also not making somebody wrong, because another time I remember my ex-husband, bless him, there was a friend of ours had died. We didn't see this couple very often, and the wife, she died, and I was distraught because I'd really got into that space of, but I'm never going to see her again. And I was curled up on the settee crying, and all I could hear was him say to me, I don't understand why you're so upset. You never used to see her very much anyway. And I was like, I think there was a bit of bewilderment in that moment for me, because, and a feeling of being made wrong because I was so upset. And so don't make anybody wrong. No, I didn't see her very often, but it's the thought of, I didn't even have the opportunity now to ever see her again in this physical life, you know? And that's where the tears and the upset and other things, a whole host of other things that were there. And so it's allowing someone to go through that process, not judging them and not judging yourself either. And I think, there was something else that was said. Oh, I loved, Dee, what you said about your mum. She was very decisive, and you're very decisive. And I remember thinking, oh, my mother was very indecisive. She was a proper Piscean, you know, didn't know which way to go, could never make a decision. And it was only a few years ago that I realized that I was very indecisive, but actually I'd taken that on as a way of being. It would become learned behavior. And so it's like, oh, so I can be decisive if I want to be, you know? So I've been able to sort of start being a bit more decisive and not have to be so indecisive. But yeah, it's it's funny how You either take on the trait, because I was with my mum, grew up there, but also how you take on traits that are just a natural, even if you're not with that person, So, yeah, that was a lovely reminder there. And I think it's nice for you to have acknowledged that's who your mum was, and you've taken on that, and there's a part of her in you, That's beautiful. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Dr. D and Carolanne. I like it when you say, don't make yourself anyone wrong for grieving. And I like, Dr. D, when you say, when you finish your degree, your mom wasn't there, but there was that loss that you wanted to call her and tell her the good news. You wanted her to come and celebrate you, but she wasn't there. And I like it the way, and also when you finish your ministerial thing, you wanted her to be there, but she wasn't there. But you embraced it, and you are actually doing the things that you love, the things that she taught you to become who you want to become. And that's what you're doing. You're helping people. That is amazing. I want to go through that journey, by the way. So I'm going to meet you halfway one day. I want to go through that journey. I came to a journey 2016 where I basically... When you have this life, people talk about the universe, people talk about God and stuff. And my parents were Christian, but when I actually decided that I wasn't happy with my life, and after the divorce, I lost my dad, my stepmom, and no, my stepmom was still alive actually. And when I lost my stepdad as well, I came to a point where, when you look at your life, and I was like, my life, I'm not happy with my life. Where is this life going? So I was going through divorce. I got into personal development. I get into psychology. Then I'm realizing when I'm studying psychology, I was like, I'm actually calling myself a Christian, but what the hell kind of a Christian am this? God is getting confused with me. Honestly, I was this girl where I go out, my boobies are out, so I'm calling myself I'm a Christian, and I'm wearing ripped jeans. Everything was cool. But when I decided that actually I'm going to live the character who I say I am, some people, everything is a choice. When I'm saying this, I'm not speaking for somebody else. I'm speaking for my decision and my choice that I decided to do. Everything you do in life is a choice. So for me, that was a choice where I needed a transformation. I needed to live. When I'm saying I'm a relationship coach, I needed to live that life. When I'm saying I needed to live that life and not getting married, but I needed to understand the meaning of love. What does it actually mean to go deep and loving yourself and accept yourself truly? So I did something, then I came face to face with a door where somebody asked me to choose. You say you're a Christian, you choose between God and Lucifer. And I was like, I am choosing Lucifer. And it was the hell of my life that I have never experienced. And I was like, so that's when I started to experience looking at the speakers like Tony Robbins and all these big speakers. And I was like, when they actually speak, what they are speaking, they have experienced this journey. That's when I realized actually this is the journey that they had to go through. When you actually decide that I'm going to get rid of anger, get rid of this, there is a challenge that you have to go through. I remember going to my pastor and I remember ringing him and saying, I don't know, I'm somewhere, but I'm not here on earth, but I'm somewhere else. I'm not crazy, but I'm somewhere else. And it was like, okay. So, and I remember people was thinking that I'm always crazy, and I was like, I'm not crazy, but I'm not here. But there's something that is speaking. So, and I was like, and my pastor, I remember calling my pastor, and my brother is a prophet like you, and he was like, now you have to choose. So I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a choice that you've decided, the character, but now you have to choose the life or death, or to fight it to stay. I was like, what are you talking about now? So he disconnected me. So I was like, oh, one day I'm gonna go that journey, but not now, to experience what does it mean to be a minister. Maybe one day, but Ngosi Talk Show stays. So thank you so much for that, because what you have just said is like, I've learned something from your grieving. I've learned something that there is hope if I have faith, if I believe in that journey that I want to go. Even if my loved ones are not with me, I can still make them proud. I can still be who I want to be. And Carolanne, you talk about the relationship, the connection you had with your mom and dad when they left you, your dad, that intimacy between you and your father. And it gives me hope that although my father is not here, I can still embrace the memories that I had with him. I can't cry anymore anywhere. I passed that time where I can cry for him. I'm in a stage where I look at my daughter, looks like my father anyway, my youngest one. I'm in a point where when I look at my children, I'm like, thank God. And I thank this man who is my father. And I thank my parents, and I thank my step-parents for whatever education they taught me. And that's what I'm embracing. And the grieving, if someone is watching today, these speakers have been speaking, if you go through something like your relationship is not working, and you'd go through a divorce is a grieving. You are allowed to grieve, but you're not allowed to stay down, because that pain is not permanent. You can get out of it. Some people, they stay down, they never get out. So you can get out of it, but in your own time. Like Carolanne was saying, we can and Dr. D, you can say to somebody, these are the steps. As a coach, these are the steps for you to actually grieve and stuff. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. I can take that to consider. I can take that as a thing and use it. But in reality, grieving is a process. Like I said before, some days you have good days. Some days you accept that person is gone. Sometimes you get up one day, you embrace the memories, and sometimes you don't even want to look at their pictures. So things are different. And then someday you wake up, it's like somebody has hit you in the head. You're no longer crying anymore. You are dancing. So that's what life is about. So we can sit here and tell you, it's just having professional help. It is very, very important. If you are not coping, you need to get professional help so you can talk to somebody, so you can let it all out. I let it all out with God. Like this morning, I was praying, and then for some reason, and my brother was not well a few weeks ago. So I was like praying to God and saying, God, I was letting it all out, saying, I don't want no sickness in my family, declaring, claiming good health. You have to reclaim that thing that you want. So if you are grieving, claim freedom, because if grieving can be a chain that you don't want to get out of it. And don't compare your life with anybody else. If you are grieving and somebody else you know who lost somebody, and you start saying, why am I going through this? How come they got it over? How do you know they got it over? So you really don't know. So accept accept your whatever going through you when you're going through the grief, and let the process. Accept it, let the process take place. It might take 1 year, it might take less. That's how life is. So I don't know, Dr. D, do you want to leave anything before we leave? Any words of encouragement? Let me see what I need to ask you for the audience. So how do you love the person who died unapologetically and accept their death? How do you do that? If you can leave words of encouragement based on that, please.
The question is, it's how do you love someone who you lost unapologetically?
Yeah.
I just say, continue to love them by honoring them. I mentioned earlier about honor is an aspect of love. And if, that's someone that, you believe that, you can, continue to love even though they're not physically here, then continue to honor them. That's what I'm doing with my mom. I continue to honor her through my business, the business name. I continue to honor her by being myself because, like I said, she was very decisive and unapologetically herself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like she was just her. And so, I say just, continue to love them by honoring them, honor the things that, connect with you and that grow with you. And they don't all have to be publicly. Like mine is on a public platform. That is a part of my platform, talking about my mom, to connect with people on, a different level that way. But your honoring them may be different. It may be in private. You may have had a parent who loved gardening. They may have loved helping out those who are unfortunate. So you may want to start a nonprofit, helping people in your community. You may also, want to start a garden, plant your own garden, and name it after your parents. So there are different ways in which you can show that love, through honoring their memory, though they're not physically here. So you can do that unapologetically. And if people ask, then the answer is, well, why are you planting this garden, or why are you starting this nonprofit? Because I want to. This is a way in which I am honoring my loved one, period. There is no long dissertation or explanation needed. I am doing this because I want to. This makes me feel good. This makes me, honor the one that I love. I miss them dearly. I do wish that they were still here with me physically, but that is not the case. And to help me continue to love and honor them, I'm going to do this particular thing. And so, that's, a way that you can definitely continue to do that. Write a book about them, write a blog, write a story, have, meet and greets with your family members. I know people who do, of course, since, we're in a lot of still now virtual, congregating where we're getting together, people who have lost loved ones have been meeting with other family members virtually. They've been meeting with their siblings or meeting with other people virtually just to talk about family and some of the beautiful memories that mom left or dad left. Like, really, just getting together and uniting, in the purpose of celebrating that person's life. And just remembering those things. I mean, remembering it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, talking about the time where you used to get your sibling in trouble all the time by running to tell mom all the stuff that they were doing, or that time when mom caught both of y'all outside messing up something in the yard and y'all got in trouble. All of those things are beautiful memories, and help us to really love that person by honoring them for what they brought to our lives. So I would definitely say that. You said something, Nomsa, that made me tickle, a little bit inside, where you talked about your transition and about wearing the ripped jeans and different things of that nature. I said, well, I might need to check my Christianity because I still wear ripped jeans. I'm just joking there, but I saw a person, and guess what? My mom would love it. She would absolutely love it. My mom, one of the issues that pushed her into the lifestyle was because of so many harsh rules and the non-acceptance of Christianity. My
being
mother
judged.
church, right? She grew up in all of that. Like, my family members, I'm not the only one that's a minister. Like on both my dad and my mom's side, we're filled with ministers, and they were both called to that work, but they decided to do something different. So I got like this heavy weight, that's on my life. But my mother was a prophet. Like, although she was so misguided, like, she was a prophet. She could tell you, certain things were coming before they would come. Like, she had that gift, but she was so ostracized. And my mother was a singer. And so she had this group when they were young. They developed this group, but it had the mixture of like blues in it. And so they were ostracized from the church. And so she was pushed away from the Father and the love of her soul into another lifestyle because of the harshness of religion. And I think that's why I'm just so adamant about tearing up all those layers. So I still, as a minister of the gospel, I will wear ripped jeans in a hot beat, like in a hot beat, I will wear them, and I'll show up with a blazer and a t-shirt and some ripped jeans, and let's go with the gospel. Let's go. And I love that because I saw a meme yesterday that just really resonated with me. And it was a picture, and it said, someone said to them, "You don't act like a Christian." And their response was, God said he didn't need actors. And so it was so very, very, resonating with the ministry that I'm called to. And like I said, I'm called to rip up a lot of that old antiquated theology and stuff that really is not the heart and foundation of spiritual walk. And again, it goes back to, that grieving process of knowing, being yourself. Be yourself in the grieving process. You don't have to grieve like mom. You don't have to grieve like dad or your cousin or your sister. If you share the same parent, and your sister or brother is grieving differently, you don't have to take on that grief. Grieve how you want to grieve. Be yourself in your grief. Like Carolanne said, there's no wrong way to grieve. Don't point out and say, this person is wrong. Grieve the way that you want to grieve. And again, mine is making sure that I am decisive, that I'm healthy, that I'm sober, and all of my decision making, because believe it or not, I got all of that from my mother. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. D. I like it. The decision that I made with my faith, it was never somebody telling me, do this. It was a choice. And being in a place where I was never going to judge anyone who is a Christian, who wears ripped jeans. It was me. And looking at my life and embracing who I am. And I like it that when you say your mom went through what she went through because of churches, Christians, people, we are very judgmental people. And when I actually made a decision, I was judged in church for different things. When I made a decision, it was a decision following different pastors. There's a Nigerian pastor that I follow, Dr. Olukoya. So he speaks the truth. It was me having to look at my life and say, I don't want to live like this. And being in a place of love, when I see someone who is wearing ripped jeans, and telling myself that it's not about what you do, it's not about what you wear, it's about you being in that place where how you want to have a relationship with God, how you want to have a relationship with the universe. It was that way, me understanding it and being in that place where, like now, I'm negotiating to actually fast for 100 days with my brother, but he's not giving me the answer. So I've tried, yes. I've listened to one guy on YouTube, and he was like, you call yourself Christians and we are Satanism, we do this, we pray. I was like, what now? And I had to check my prayer life, girl. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I can guarantee you that as a true Christian, you don't have to go around and judging anyone. And even you yourself, you don't have to judge yourself. It comes you getting up in the morning. It's like a dream where you are like, why have I got this? I don't want to do this anymore. It comes you as a decision inside where no one can question you. And that is development, that is growing. So Carolanne, I have a different question for you. I know you put down some notes, but if you want to add to what Dr. D said, you can add it. I just want the audience to gain something. How do you treat yourself when you are grieving with kindness while you are in that place? without comparing your life with somebody else, your grieving process with somebody else, Caroline? How did you do it yourself?
I think it was through my training in all the complementary fields that I've now trained in, and getting to know myself. So using those processes, because it's about noticing what is happening and being with how you're feeling, and then just getting in touch with the body and asking, right, well, what process here needs rebalancing? And so I would then choose one of the processes that I've got, work through that and rebalance, and then just come out of it different perspective, feeling lighter, and that there's some inner wisdom that just comes through, you know. So that's how I've dealt with it over the years, and come to this place of much more at peace with the whole process. And when my aunt died a few months ago, and I wasn't actually able to get to the funeral, but I was able to watch it on video. They had closed circuit video, you know, TV, so I was able to watch it there. But I remember feeling sad because this particular aunt was someone I was really close with. And then I sat with the sadness and thought, what is this sadness really about? And when the answer came back was that it was all about me. I won't see her again. I won't be able to see her again in this physical world. And once I realized that and put that aside, and was actually grateful and glad for the time I knew her, for all the times we'd shared, and also the fact that she was now free of pain and she was with my uncle again, that the sadness just went. It literally just left me, because I stopped making it about me and started thinking about her, you know. And so that's how I've sort of now come to deal with it. And there is something else I'd like to sort of bring in here, because there was something that came to me about when I said about my mum stopping me from crying and feeling that anger about, you know, with my grandfather dying. I have actually, I have come to a place of forgiveness with her. And it is important to realize that people only do the best with the resources they have at the time. And so by really understanding that and where my mum was coming from, I was able to then forgive her and to move on and let go of that anger and judgment of her for the way she, you know, been with me in that moment. But actually, what Dee was saying about honouring what your parents have given you or supported you with, or some way of honouring them, and that really brought to me, and I really thank you for that point, because it's really strengthened this whole reason as to why I do what I do. And they were very, very strong on how important it was to get a good education and to keep learning and to try new things. They were always encouraging us. If there was something we wanted to learn, go and do it. And they would find a way of helping us, or, you know, letting us do it. But that came through because of their own disrupted education when they were children, because of the war and various other things, you know. And so there was always that strong, you need to have a good education. And through all of that, because I've now come to that place of realizing that there is something deeper within how we can learn, having been a teacher and now doing what I do now, and unlocked the actual writer within me, realize that there is so much that, there's so much that we can learn. There's so much more out there And so it's having that thirst for learning, unlocking all the abilities within you. And that's what they were about, was about unlocking what you're capable of doing. And so that's why I now realize I'm honoring that memory of them and what they, I say instilled in us, but brought to us. And so I'm really thanking, I'm sitting here in a state of gratitude. So thank you, Dee, for bringing up that, because it's really helped me to clarify that and feel even more gratitude for the life they led and what they brought to our lives. You know, my brother and my sister, and what they've given me in terms of this whole education system, how we can learn, how we do learn, and what's missing, what has been missing, and how things can change. I'm enjoying the exploration, and I think now when I get in there, oh, what am I doing? What is this about? Oh gosh, what I've realized is the last few days I've been in a bit of a, oh God, what am I doing? What's my purpose? I completely lost all sense of what am I doing here in this world? You know, what is my work about? And this has now brought it back to, I've now got a clearer understanding. Thank you. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. It's like, okay, yeah, you put up the question, you sit with it, you do some inner work on that and just hand it up, and then the answers come. The answers come. They might not come when you want them, you know, like I want them now. They will come. So whatever questions you have about, you know, what's going on, just be present to the form in which the answer comes back, because it may not be in a form that you actually are expecting. You just have to be open and realize, oh my gosh, here's the answer to the question and the prayer that I've been putting up. Thank you. Thank you for today. Amazing.
So much. Thank you so much, ladies. That was 1 hour, 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. So thank you so much, ladies. And thank you so much those who are watching Gossip Talk Show. Mahwale, thank you so much for your comment. Can you read Dr. D, her comment, her last comment? I feel that grieving, because to me there's a logo in front of it, so I can see some of it.
Hold, yeah, let me, I can pull it up so I can see it now. Hopefully it pops up. Yes. I feel that grieving is a personal process in which one does what works for them without comparing themselves to others. What works for one may not work for another.
That is true. So I'm not going to say anything no more. So that is so true. It's something that we've been touching on all the way. So thank you so much, Mahwale. And if you are watching this video later, please press some love button and share the message with your friends. And we are here Monday to Friday in Gossip Talk Show. And we'll see you guys next Monday at 1 p.m. UK time. And thank you so much, Dr. D. You and I have so many things in common. I wonder how you got to be connected with me. So thank you so much, honestly.
You're welcome. It was the Global Women's Meeting, I think, is how we met with Mirella down in
I'm questioning our connection. What is our connection about?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So I'm looking forward to get to know our connection, because you connect with people for good reasons. So I'm looking forward to get to know you properly. So thank you so much, ladies. Sharing your stories, Carolanne, about your parents is something that some people like to keep it private. If you guys are like me, I like to talk about my life. It makes me feel better knowing that somebody's learning from my experience that I've gone through. So thank you so much, and Dee, for sharing that about your mom as well, because there's some things that you shared that are private to you. But if somebody watches this, it will give someone hope that if she can go through this, that means I can actually get up and do the things that I want to do, because grieving is very painful. And grieving is like right now around the world, people are losing families. In India, the coronavirus is really bad. So families are grieving and people are losing businesses, and there's so much that is going on. So if there is someone watching this, please just learn from this speakers and implement your own grieving process and pick yourself up, because there is no such thing as a permanent problem. Everything is temporal. So just pick yourself up. And I have a stick. I have books that I smash every single day when I'm feeling frustrated. So that's what I do. Find your own thing that makes you feel better. So thank you so much, everyone. Live with grace and God bless you.